Hello everyone, welcome back to Byte Masters Academy. In my previous video, we learned about selection control structures in C programming, such as if, else, else if, and nested if. If you haven't watched that lesson yet, I highly recommend checking it out before continuing with this video. In today's lesson, we are going one step further. We are going to understand if, else, else if, and nested if using real-world examples. I will explain each concept clearly, and write the C programs step by step, so beginners can easily understand how these decision-making statements work. So, let's get started. In real-life example, here, if the student's marks are 40 or more, they will pass the exam. If the condition is true, the code inside if block will execute. Sometimes, we need two choices. If the condition is true, one block runs. If it is false, the else block runs. In this case, if the student's marks are less than 40, else block runs and printf command will be execute inside the else block. First, we include the standard input-output header file. Now, we start the main function. This is where the program execution begins. Then we need to declare an integer variable called marks. Next, we ask the user to enter their marks. Using scanf, we read the marks from the keyboard and store it in the mark variable. Now comes the if statement. Here, we check whether the marks is greater than or equal to 40. If this condition is true, the message inside the if block, "You have passed the exam," will be printed. If the condition becomes false, the else block will execute. The message inside the else block, "You have failed the exam," will be printed. Finally, I return 0 to end the program. Now we run the codes. Entered 65 marks. Output will be displayed passed the exam. Run again and entered 35 marks. Output will display failed. When there are multiple conditions, we use else if. The program checks each condition one by one, from top to bottom. Only the first condition that is true will be executed. In this example, we are grading a student based on their marks. If the marks are 75 or above, the student is awarded a distinction. If the marks are between 60 and 74, the student is awarded a credit. Marks between 40 and 59 result in a pass. If the marks are below 40, the student will fail. Now, let's see how we can code this scenario. Now let's look at a program with multiple conditions. We declare an integer variable called marks. We ask the user to enter their marks. Using scanf, we store the marks value. First, we check if the marks are 75 or above. If this condition is true, the program prints distinction. If the first condition is false, the program checks the next else-if condition. Here, we check whether marks are 60 or above. If this condition is true, the program prints credit. If the second condition also false, the program continues checking conditions from top to bottom. Here, we check whether marks are 40 or above. If this condition is true, the program prints pass. If none of the conditions are true, the else block will execute. This means the student has failed. Now we run the codes. First, let's enter a value greater than 75. Output will be displayed as distinction. Then, let's enter a value greater than 60. Output should be displaying as credit. Now we need to enter a value greater than 40 to test the output for pass. If we enter a value less than 40, the output will obviously be failed. Now let's look at an example of a nested if statement. Nested if means one if statement written inside another if statement. In this example, we check whether a person is eligible for a bank loan. This is how nested if helps us handle dependent conditions in real-world programs. It checks the first condition, whether the age is greater than or equal to 21. If the condition is false, it displays age is not eligible and stops. If the condition is true, it asks for the salary. Then it checks the second condition, whether the salary is greater than or equal to 50,000. If this condition is true, it displays eligible. Otherwise, it displays salary not enough and the program ends. Let's rewrite the code. First, we check the person's age. If the age is 21 or above, the program then checks the salary. This means the second condition is checked only if the first condition is true. If the salary is 50,000 or more, the loan is approved. Else salary is not enough to having a loan. If the age itself is below 21, the program directly says the age is not eligible. Now we run the codes. First we enter a valid age and salary. "Loan approved" will be displayed. Now, age is valid, salary is less than 50,000. The output will be that the salary not enough. If the age is below 21, the output will display age not eligible, without asking for salary. So, this is how if, else, else if, and nested if work in C programming using real-world examples. These decision-making statements help programs think and act based on different conditions. I strongly recommend that you practice these examples and try changing the input values to understand the logic better. If this video was helpful, don't forget to like and share it. Subscribe to Byte Masters Academy for more beginner-friendly C programming tutorials. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.